All right, shalom, shalom, and shalom again. You are live and direct, as always, with your Akazaki Yahoo. And I start this as I was, Slaki, and I start this broadcast as I would start any broadcast by, first of all, as always, giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahweh. And we do so by Shema Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, in the name of his beloved son, Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. Welcome once again with your Akazaki Yahoo to a video review. Oh, Slakia, I can't forget the 12 tribes of Israel who were scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say shalom, wa baruchim, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together. And we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. All praises to the Almighty Yah. Hallelujah. Yes, indeed. So, as I was saying, bringing you another video for review. This video comes to us from Black Stories Untold. The African American country they destroyed, New Africa. All right. So a couple of things with that we'll talk about near the end. This is a rather short video. While I'm going through this one, I'm going to see if I can find another one, and we can just do a little string along here. But let's get to the video, and so we can stay humble. Stay humble. All right, once again, from Black Stories Untold, the African American country they destroyed, New Africa. You ever heard of it? I had not before I saw this, but let's check it out.
Detroit, March 31st, 1968. While America burned from King's assassination and cities exploded in rebellion, 500 black revolutionaries gathered in a basement to do something unthinkable. They declared independence from the United States itself. They elected a president living in exile in Cuba, drafted a constitution, demanded 5 entire states as reparations for slavery. 3 years later, the FBI would bring tanks to a simple house in Mississippi to crush their dream with bullets and lies. Everything you've been taught about Black liberation is incomplete. This is the story they tried to erase. The Republic of New Africa and the Black American state that white America destroyed. While civil rights leaders marched for integration, Malcolm X stood before crowds demanding land back and financial compensation for centuries of stolen labor. Malcolm understood what most didn't grasp. Economic independence required territorial control. In his 1960 Boston speech, he declared, "The United States must compensate us for the labor stolen from us." But he went further. At Organization of Afro-American Unity meetings, Malcolm outlined a specific vision. Black Americans should demand territory in the American South, where they constituted the majority population. Malcolm studied the creation of Israel, Pakistan's independence from India, and liberation movements across Africa. He told followers that Reconstruction had failed because freed slaves received no economic base, no land, no reparations to build independent communities. When assassins silenced Malcolm in February 1965, 2 brothers in Detroit had absorbed every word. Both had attended Malcolm's meetings, studied his speeches, and understood his blueprint for territorial independence. Following King's assassination, these brothers decided Malcolm's vision needed immediate implementation. Meet the intellectual architects of Black independence: Milton Henry, a prominent Detroit attorney, and his brother Richard Henry, a technical writer for the U.S. Army who understood government systems from the inside. Richard Henry transformed himself into Imari Abubakari Obadele, adopting a Yoruba name meaning "the king arrives at home." Born in Philadelphia in 1930, He had protested military segregation, co-founded organizations fighting job discrimination, and hosted W.E.B. Du Bois during his 1953 Philadelphia visit. By the 1960s, Obadeli possessed the intellectual framework and legal knowledge to draft a constitution for an independent nation. Milton became Guide Obadeli, and together they established the Malcolm X Society in 1967. They studied international law, researched successful independence movements, and identified the legal grounds for Black American self-determination. Meanwhile, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, college student Edwin Taliaferro experienced his revolutionary awakening on April 4, 1968, watching news coverage of King's assassination. The son of Detroit civil rights activists, he would later change his name to Chokwe Lumumba, honoring the Chokwe people of Central Africa, and Patrice Lumumba, the Congolese leader killed by Western forces. These men represented something unprecedented: Black intellectual nationalists with legal training and the organizational skills to transform revolutionary theory into governmental practice. Before we continue with how these revolutionaries built their own nation, if you believe these hidden histories of Black resistance need to be told, subscribe to Black Stories Untold and help us spread the truth they don't want you to know. Now, back to the video. The Malcolm X Society convened a Black government conference in Detroit. Over 500 delegates arrived, representing every major Black nationalist organization across the country. The conference drew heavyweight figures. Queen Mother Audley Moore, the 69-year-old veteran who had fought for reparations since the 1920s, became the first person to sign their Declaration of Independence. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's widow, accepted appointment as second vice president. Cultural nationalists, Revolutionary Action Movement founders, and SNCC veterans attended. In one revolutionary weekend, delegates drafted the Code of Umoja Constitution and selected 5 specific states: South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. These choices weren't arbitrary. Delegates had studied census data and identified counties where Black Americans constituted clear majorities in the former plantation economy. Their demands staggered the imagination. $400 billion in reparations, equivalent to over $3 trillion today, plus territorial control of the Black Belt South. They demanded the right to hold a referendum allowing all African Americans to choose their citizenship. They elected Robert F. Williams as president. Williams, the former NAACP leader who had advocated armed self-defense, fled to Cuba in 1961 after FBI persecution. From Havana, he had broadcast Radio Free Dixie to Black communities. Williams accepted the presidency and proposed diplomatic initiatives for the new nation. By April 1968, the Republic of New Africa existed as a functioning shadow government. By 1970, RNA leaders purchased 20 acres in Hinds County, Mississippi, chosen because it sat in the heart of the Black Belt where African Americans constituted the majority population. They established El Malik as their national capital, naming it after Malcolm X. They constructed meeting facilities, agricultural operations, and housing for families relocating from northern cities. Armed security units called the Black Legion patrolled the property, openly carrying legal weapons. RNA implemented Ujamaa economics, Tanzania's cooperative system where communities collectively owned resources and made decisions through democratic assemblies. The Code of Umoja Constitution established the People's Center Council as the national legislature, with representatives elected from RNA communities across the United States. By 1971, RNA operated schools teaching African history and Swahili, provided medical treatment, and ran economic cooperatives producing food and crafts. The organization provided what they called the 6 essentials for human life: food, housing, clothing, education, medical treatment, and defense. Chokwe Lumumba joined as second vice president in March 1971, attending the Land Celebration Day ceremony dedicating their capital. But federal authorities were monitoring every move. Flashback to March 29th, 1969, RNA's first anniversary celebration at Detroit's New Bethel Baptist Church became a battlefield that previewed the government's strategy of overwhelming force against Black independence. Reverend C.L. Franklin, Aretha Franklin's father, rented his church for the weekend celebration. 200 men, women, and children gathered for speeches, cultural performances, and the reading of RNA's accomplishments during their first year. Outside, armed Black Legion guards provided security, a common practice for RNA events given constant threats from white terror groups. At approximately 10:30 p.m., as families prepared to leave, Detroit police officers Michael Chapsky and Richard Warbeck observed the armed guards and approached to question them. According to police reports, the guards opened fire, fatally wounding Chapsky and injuring Warbeck. Within minutes, over 40 heavily armed police officers stormed the church. They trained weapons on families inside, including elderly people and children as young as 10 years old. According to newspaper accounts, officers may have exchanged shots with a rifleman near the altar and someone firing from a concealed position in the ceiling. The assault left 4 church attendees wounded and resulted in 143 arrests, nearly everyone present regardless of age or involvement. Police dragged families from the church at gunpoint, separating parents from children and holding everyone for hours without charges. The next morning, Black Judge George Crockett Jr. ordered most defendants released, recognizing the raid as police provocation rather than legitimate law enforcement. Crockett's decision enraged Detroit police and local media, who demanded that he be removed from the bench for coddling extremists. For RNA members, the New Bethel incident served as a brutal education in federal strategy. The government would characterize any RNA gathering as criminal conspiracy, justify overwhelming force against Black families, and create legal pretexts for mass arrests. 3 RNA members were ultimately acquitted of all charges related to Officer Zapsky's death. But the message became crystal clear. Black independence would be met with state force designed to terrorize entire communities. The incident drew national media attention to RNA while demonstrating that federal authorities had no intention of allowing Black self-determination to succeed peacefully. The FBI conducted extensive surveillance of RNA families and members. They created detailed files on RNA members' personal relationships, financial situations, and daily activities, information later used for harassment and intimidation. COINTELPRO agents infiltrated RNA meetings with provocateurs instructed to promote conflict and internal discord. They forged letters on fake RNA letterhead, sending inflammatory messages to Black Panther Party leaders designed to provoke armed conflicts between organizations. FBI documents reveal attempts to recruit Jewish Defense League members and Klan sympathizers for attacks against RNA members. The strategy targeted every aspect of RNA's operations. Agents disrupted land purchases through legal challenges, spread rumors about financial corruption among leaders, and coordinated with local prosecutors to ensure maximum sentences when RNA members face charges. By sabotaging every RNA initiative, from cooperative businesses to educational programs, federal agents aimed to create evidence of Black incompetence and internal dysfunction, justifying continued white oversight of Black communities. 2 years after New Bethel, federal authorities implemented their strategy with military precision against RNA headquarters in Jackson, Mississippi. August 18, 1971, 6 a.m., 15 Jackson police officers, 14 FBI agents, and highway patrol units surrounded 1148 Lewis Street, RNA headquarters. Inside, 7 people were sleeping, including Tony Austin, a pregnant 21-year-old. The officers carried warrants for 4 individuals, none actually in the house. The warrants appeared to be pretexts for a premeditated assault on RNA leadership. FBI agent James Salmon announced, "This is the FBI. You have 1 minute to come out." After exactly 75 seconds, Agent William Crumley fired tear gas through a window. A 20-minute gun battle erupted. When the shooting stopped, Lieutenant Lewis Skinner lay dead. Patrolman Billy Crowell had lost his arm. FBI agent William Stringer suffered a leg wound. 7 RNA members surrendered and faced arrest, joined by 4 others arrested blocks away, including President Imari Obadele. The 11 arrested revolutionaries, the RNA 11, faced state charges of killing and sedition. 8 received convictions with sentences ranging from 7 years to life imprisonment. Obadele served 17 months before winning release on killing charges, only to face federal conspiracy charges in 1973, receiving a 7-year sentence. While RNA leaders languished in prison, their organization's central leadership structure collapsed by 1975, though local chapters continued operating independently across the country. Chokwe Lumumba channeled his rage into legal advocacy. After graduating first in his law school class, he built a national practice defending political prisoners, including Tupac Shakur, revolutionaries facing government persecution, and victims of police brutality. In 1988, Lumumba returned to Jackson, Mississippi, the same city where federal agents had brought tanks to destroy his movement. Working as a public defender and community organizer, he represented the same judicial system that had railroaded the RNA 11. In 2009, Lumumba won election to Jackson City Council. Then in 2013, the impossible happened. He became mayor of Jackson, the same city that witnessed RNA's destruction, now elected a former revolutionary as its highest official. Lumumba's mayoral slogan, "One city, one aim, one destiny," deliberately echoed RNA's vision. His platform emphasized participatory democracy and cooperative economics, practical applications of RNA principles. When Lumumba died in office in February 2014, his son Chokwe Antar continued the legacy, winning the mayor's office in 2017. 2 generations of RNA revolutionaries now governed Mississippi's capital. RNA's destruction revealed why federal authorities invested such resources in destroying Black independence. An independent Black nation would have eliminated extremist justifications for poverty in Black communities. With their own land, courts, and economy, Black Americans would have been immune to redlining, educational exclusion, and the prison systems that generate billions in profits today. Today's struggles continue RNA's legacy. California's Reparations Task Force proposes payments echoing RNA's $400 billion demand. H.R. 40 carries forward their legislative strategies. The FBI's 2017 Black Identity Extremists memo reveals identical surveillance tactics now targeting modern Black activists. The Republic of New Afrika still exists, headquartered in Washington, D.C., with thousands of members demanding the same 5 states in reparations. Every movement for Black self-determination walks in RNA's footsteps. The Republic of New Afrika was the Black American state that white America destroyed. But their vision lives on in every person who understands that true freedom requires controlling your own destiny. If this story inspired you, subscribe to Black Stories Untold for more histories they tried to erase. Share this with someone who needs to understand that Black people have always fought for liberation, not just integration. And if you want another incredible story of Black resistance, check out our video about the Black senator that terrified white America.
All right. All praises to the Most High for another look into some of this insight and to understand that these things weren't just things. These were reality that our people had to deal with. Even though we tried to create something, It seemed like everything we tried to create got sent to nothing or got made into nothing, brought down to nothing. Let's say that. So, kind. That's exactly what we're dealing with here, and these are things that we need to know about. I don't know about you. I've never heard about this particular situation with these men seeking to make a state here in America. You know, it's ironic. Um, I actually had this very idea myself, even before I was in the truth, and I was gonna call it Black America. I said, if we give us, I said 5 states. They got 5 states. I said, give us 5 states, and we'll literally. I had this very same thing in my mind. It came to me in pretty much not the same way. It was 5 southern states, and they give us those states. It wasn't these 5 states, but they would give us those states, and um, we would establish our country right there, and that would be we would be Black America, and no outsiders would come into our country. We would have our own military. We would have our own. Everything would be ours. So we would do everything we needed to do to get things situated. So that was a plan that I had a long time ago, long ago. So praise to the Abba. That's interesting to hear these things and to understand these things. We're gonna go ahead to the next video and keep it rolling. This second video is the 7 levels of races. So again, we in Yom Kippur, it's a time to be humble, and so we're utilizing these videos as a method to keep us humble, to help us remember that we can't do anything save our power come to return to put us back in our place. All right, we can't do it on our own. We've had ideas, we've had fortitude, we've had the ability to act on them, and none of it comes to fruition. Why does it not come to fruition? Because our power have not gotten behind it, and He have not sent us to be rescued. He have not made for us to be rescued. So, as always, all links are in the description box. Let's get to this video and be edified and kind.
Every level of racist in America explained. Level 1, the Karen. Let's start with everyone's favorite, the accidental racist.
Ew, she is not a customer. She is just some bum that wandered in off the street.
The Karen. The person who swears they're not racist while saying the most racist stuff imaginable. New York, 2020. Amy Cooper sees a black man bird watching. Bird watching. And somehow her brain goes straight to 911. There's an African-American man threatening my life, she says, voice trembling like she's being chased by a serial killer instead of someone watching birds. These are your I have black friends people. They'll compliment your English like it's shocking you can speak. They'll touch your hair without asking. They'll tell you you're not like other black people and think that's a compliment. Philadelphia, 2018. 2 black men commit the heinous crime of existing in a Starbucks without buying coffee yet. The manager calls the cops. They get arrested for waiting. For waiting! Level 1 racists don't burn crosses. They just make your everyday life exhausting. 68% of workers deal with microaggressions regularly. But these people swear it's all misunderstandings. They're not trying to be racist. They're just really bad at not being racist. Parents literally have to teach kindergartners how to survive encounters with level 1 racists. But sure, it's just awkwardness, right? Here's the thing about accidental racists. They're everywhere, but they're symptoms of something way more organized. Level 2, the gatekeeper. Level 2 doesn't shout slurs. They smile politely and say, unfortunately, that position has been filled, while your resume is still warm from the printer. These are your HR managers, loan officers, real estate agents, and school administrators. They don't hate black people. They just happen to find reasons why black people don't quite fit. Chicago, 1930s. Government officials literally drew red lines around black neighborhoods like they were radioactive zones. Banks couldn't lend there. Too risky, they said. Cool. Totally normal behavior from professionals. Long Island, 2019. Real estate agents get caught on hidden camera. They show white couples the dream home and tell black couples with identical finances that everything's already pending. Magic. It's almost like nothing changed except the paperwork got prettier. Today's gatekeepers call it culture fit in hiring. They point to credit scores without mentioning how those scores got tanked by discriminatory lending. Black home ownership sits at 46.4% compared to 75.8% for white families. Gee, wonder how that happened. Must be personal choice, right? School district administrators draw enrollment boundaries like military strategists, somehow always managing to separate rich white kids from poor black kids. It's not about race, it's about property values. Yeah. And how exactly do you think those property values got that way? The gatekeeper is dangerous because they have institutional power and plausible deniability. They're not burning crosses. They're just following company policy that mysteriously always hurts the same people. But gatekeepers? That's child's play. Sometimes they don't even bother with individual discrimination. Level 3, the colorblind. Level 3 is where we get really creative. Why write obviously racist laws when you can write colorblind ones that just happen to devastate black communities? Pure coincidence, obviously. These are your state legislators, federal congresspeople, and policy wonks. They craft laws that sound totally fair on paper, but work like surgical strikes against black communities. Washington, D.C., 1986. Congress decides crack, predominantly used in black communities, gets you 100 times the sentence of powder cocaine. Same drug, different packaging. But hey, the law doesn't mention race, so totally fair, right? These lawmakers love voter ID requirements. Everyone should have ID. Sure, except ID costs money. DMVs are mysteriously rare in certain neighborhoods, and some folks work 3 jobs without time for bureaucratic field trips. But technically, colorblind. Mission accomplished. They fund algorithms for hiring and lending without checking for bias. Facial recognition error rate for light-skinned men, 0.8%. For darker-skinned women, 34.7%. But it's just math, so it must be objective. They're not racist. They just signed off on systems that learned from our totally not racist data. The modern policymaker creates mass incarceration that looks totally legitimate. Voter suppression that's technically legal. Algorithmic bias that scales discrimination to industrial levels, all while maintaining plausible deniability. They don't wear hoods. They wear suits and hide behind focus groups and polling data. But sometimes, elected officials drop the act entirely and just go full authoritarian. Level 4, the enforcer. Level 4 is where your own government decides black people organizing is a national security threat. Not the Klan, not actual terrorists, people asking for equal rights. These are FBI agents, police chiefs, prosecutors, and intelligence officials who use the full power of the state to crush black leadership. California and Illinois, 1960s to 70s. FBI agents literally ran a program called COINTELPRO to neutralize black leadership. They didn't just spy, they actively sabotaged, imprisoned, and assassinated civil rights leaders. Chicago, December 1969. FBI agents give Chicago police a detailed floor plan of Fred Hampton's apartment. They coordinate a raid at 4 a.m. while he's sleeping, and he gets shot in the head. 21 years old. His crime? Feeding kids breakfast and teaching community organizing. They bugged Martin Luther King Jr.'s hotel rooms, sent him anonymous letters telling him to, and the FBI director literally called him the most dangerous Negro in America. These are federal agents. Think this is ancient history? Federal agents tracked Black Lives Matter organizers' cell phones, created fake social media accounts to monitor activists, and somehow, protesters keep ending up dead in cars and jail cells. But I'm sure it's all totally different now. Level 4 racists have badges, security clearances, and legal authority to destroy lives. They don't just discriminate, they wage war. Of course, when federal agents are too busy to handle things personally, there's always the street-level enforcers. Level 5. The uniform. Level 5 is where the people sworn to protect and serve become the threat. with badges, guns, and legal immunity to do whatever they want. These aren't bad apples, they're products of departments with bad cultures, bad training, and bad incentives. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Police officers don't just allow a white mob to destroy the wealthiest black community in America, they call in air support to drop bombs. Actual bombs on American citizens. Then they blame the victims. Ferguson, Missouri, 2014. The Department of Justice finds police officers were basically running a legal extortion racket, targeting black residents for traffic tickets to fund the city budget, almost like taxation without representation, but with tasers. New York City, 2000s. Police officers conduct 700,000 stop and frisk encounters per year, 90% on black and Latino men. Hit rate for finding weapons? About 1%. So basically, legal harassment with a 99% failure rate. But hey, they had quotas to meet. These officers pull over black drivers at twice the rate during the day, but the disparity disappears at night when they can't see races clearly. They arrest black kids for the same infractions that get white kids warnings. They patrol black neighborhoods like occupying armies. Level 5 racists have legal authority to use violence while investigating themselves for misconduct. They don't burn crosses. They plant evidence and claim they feared for their lives. But uniform racism is still retail violence. When America really wants to get things done, we elect the people who write it into law. Level 6, the architect. Level 6 is where the cruelty becomes policy, not rogue cops or individual bigots. Elected officials who make oppression legal, systematic, and generational. These are governors, state legislators, Supreme Court justices, and federal officials who design the infrastructure of inequality. Virginia, 1705. State legislators don't just legalize owning humans. They systematically strip away every possible right. Can't own property, can't learn to read, can't gather in groups, can't defend yourself, can't testify in court. They write a manual for creating a permanent underclass. After slavery ends, these officials create convict leasing. Alabama, Georgia, Texas legislators turn prisons into slavery with extra steps. Black men get arrested for vagrancy, aka existing while poor, and leased to plantations and mines. Death rates higher than actual slavery, but technically legal. North Carolina officials, 1929 to 1974, run forced sterilization programs targeting undesirable populations. Guess who that meant? They sterilize over 7,600 people, mostly black women, without consent. State-sponsored medical abuse with a legal framework. Oregon legislators, 1844 to 1926, banned black people from living in the entire state. Not just slavery, straight up apartheid. Whites only carved into the state constitution. The liberal West Coast, everybody. Modern officials build highways straight through black neighborhoods, like surgical strikes. I-10 through New Orleans, I-95 through Miami's Overtown. Urban renewal, they call it. Urban removal is more accurate. Level 6 racists don't just discriminate. They engineer society to make discrimination automatic. They don't wear hoods. They wear robes and sit in marble buildings. But even legal oppression requires paperwork and process. Sometimes people just say screw it and go full terrorist. Level 7, the terrorist. Level 7 is where we stop pretending there are rules. Domestic terrorists who use public violence to keep entire communities in line through sheer fear. These are Klan members, white extremists, white nationalists, and lone wolf shooters who believe in racial holy war. Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. White extremist leaders literally overthrow a legally elected government and exile hundreds of residents. Not a riot. A coordinated coup by businessmen and politicians who decided democracy had gone too far. Rosewood, Florida, 1923. Klan members and local vigilantes descend on an entire black town after a white woman claims assault. They burn it to the ground, end the lives of residents, and survivors scatter into the swamps. The town never recovers. It's erased from maps. East St. Louis, Illinois, 1917. White mobs kill over 100 black residents and burn 300 homes. The North isn't exempt. Racism doesn't respect geography. Between 1877 and 1950, lynch mobs end the lives of over 4,000 black Americans. Public spectacles with postcards sold as souvenirs. Families bringing picnic lunches to watch torture. This is the foundation everything else is built on. Charleston Church, 2015. Buffalo Supermarket, 2022. Jacksonville Dollar General, 2023. Lone gunman citing replacement theory, targeting black spaces specifically. Level 7 racists don't hide behind policies or procedures. They commit terrorism in broad daylight and call it patriotism. They are the logical conclusion of everything that came before. The Karen didn't invent racism. She just inherited the infrastructure. Today's results? Every level is operational. Karens in every workplace making daily life exhausting. Gatekeepers in every institution finding reasons to exclude. Policymakers writing colorblind laws that target with precision. Government agents surveilling and suppressing. Police officers enforcing the hierarchy with violence. Architects designing systematic oppression. Terrorists using fear as a weapon. Median white family has nearly 10 times the wealth of the median black family. Black students still disciplined at 3 times the rate. Voting rights under attack in multiple states. Same ladder, different people climbing it. Every type feeds the others. Karens normalize casual racism. Gatekeepers institutionalize it. Policymakers legalize it. Enforcers weaponize it. Uniforms legitimize it. Architects systematize it. Terrorists enforce it with violence. So here's the assignment. Which type of racist runs your area? Drop your state plus the level in the comments. We'll pin the worst examples and probably do a whole series on how other countries built their own versions of this hierarchy. Because here's the thing about America. We didn't invent racism, but we definitely perfected the distribution system. Subscribe if you want to see how deep this rabbit hole.
All right, man. Deep, and deeper. Where to begin? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start with these levels. The Karen, the gatekeeper, then the task forces that they use to enforce things, and what boils down to the doggone terrorists who attack and try to utilize fear as a weapon. Man, it's crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Karen, gatekeeper, those who enforce these ridiculous policies, who they utilize. And then it gets down to the nitty gritty, to the doggone terrorists who will do a shooting and try to hurt as many people as they can. They use their policies. They use whatever means they have to make things into what it is that they want it to be. And then they think that this is normal behavior, that this is just something that should be. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But man, that's some deep stuff. To put it into proper perspective, to put it in its proper place, and to for us to deal with it. We got to deal with it. The uniforms, I didn't mention. You know, and these policies where they just the enforcers. Yeah, so man, good stuff. As always, link in the description. We're gonna conclude with this next video. So we're gonna wrap this on up. This is the badass black soldiers that terrified white America. All right, here we go.
It's the American frontier, 1866. White America had just survived a civil war that nearly tore the nation apart. They thought they could control what came next, including 4 million newly freed black people. They were wrong. In July of that same year, something unprecedented happened. Congress authorized the creation of the first peacetime all-black army regiments, 6 regiments of armed, disciplined, federally backed black soldiers. But these weren't just any military units. They were about to become one of the most feared and respected fighting forces in American history. Men who would earn a name that struck terror into the hearts of races across the frontier. The Plains tribes called them Buffalo Soldiers.
Buffalo.
Warriors as fierce and unstoppable as the sacred buffalo. What happened next was so extraordinary that white officers would literally quit their commissions rather than command these men. These regiments were led by men like Charles Young and Henry Flipper, and they would accomplish something that had never been done before, forcing racist America to respect black military excellence. This is the story about soldiers who turned the uniform into a weapon of resistance, a story about black men who became America's first park rangers. In 1866, Congress creates the first peacetime all-black Army regiments, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the 24th and 25th Infantry. For black men fresh out of slavery, this was like hitting the lottery. Steady pay of $13 a month when most black folks were making pennies. 3 meals a day, a roof over your head, and something white America couldn't stand: respect that came with the uniform. These weren't just jobs. They were paths to dignity in a country that had spent centuries denying black people basic humanity. The Army offered structure, purpose, and most importantly, weapons. Backed by federal authority, for the first time in American history, black men could walk tall, armed, and legally protected. But white America was not having it. White officers literally quit rather than command black troops. Some took demotions just to avoid leading these regiments. George Armstrong Custer, yeah, that Custer, refused to command black soldiers, even though it cost him a promotion. The Army responded by sending these black regiments to the absolute worst, most dangerous, most isolated posts they could find. The Wild West frontier, where survival wasn't guaranteed and backup was days away. They got the worst equipment, leftover Civil War gear that was falling apart. Their horses were broken down, their saddles barely fit. Commanding officers wrote angry letters about how these men were being set up to fail with trash equipment. The message was clear: we'll give you this opportunity, but we'll make damn sure you fail at it. These soldiers had a choice: prove the racists right by failing, or do something that would shake white America to its core. By the way, if you're enjoying the content so far, it would mean the world to me if you were to hit that subscribe button down below. I'm trying to spread these black stories to everyone, and I want each and every one of you to help out. Now, back to the video. Buffalo Soldiers chose excellence as their weapon. Here's a stat that probably made racist heads explode. Buffalo Soldiers had lower desertion rates than white troops, lower court-martial rates too. Despite being treated like dirt, they stayed disciplined and professional. They earned 18 Medals of Honor, the highest military honor in America, given to black men that society said weren't even fully human. They protected mail routes through hostile territory when everyone else said it was impossible. They built roads, escorted settlers, and fought off raiders. They did jobs that white regiments failed at or refused to do. Every victory, every mission completed, every life saved was a middle finger to everyone who said black men couldn't be real soldiers. Their excellence wasn't just professional, it was revolutionary. Every time they succeeded where others failed, they destroyed another piece of the racist mythology that justified their oppression. But their success started earning them something even more dangerous than respect. Native American tribes they fought against respected them so much, they gave them the name Buffalo Soldiers. In Plains Indian culture, the buffalo was sacred, powerful, nearly impossible to kill. That name was respect from warriors who knew courage when they saw it. Buffalo Soldiers became America's first park rangers at Yosemite, Sequoia, and what's now Kings Canyon National Park. They built trails, fought wildfires, stopped poachers, and protected the wilderness. They were stewarding America's natural treasures before the National Park Service even existed. Captain Charles Young became the first black superintendent of a national park. So competent that even racist America couldn't deny his abilities. They weren't just soldiers anymore. They were symbols, proof that black excellence couldn't be contained, couldn't be hidden, couldn't be denied. But that's exactly what made them so dangerous to white supremacy. In 1906, Brownsville, Texas, black soldiers from the 25th Infantry are stationed at Fort Brown. The white townspeople hate having disciplined armed black men nearby. One night, shots are fired in town. One white man is killed, another wounded. Immediately, and I mean immediately, the white townspeople blamed the black soldiers. No investigation, no evidence, no trial. President Theodore Roosevelt, the same guy who supposedly believed in American values, dishonorably discharged 167 black soldiers overnight, without a trial, without evidence, without basic justice. 167 men, some with 20 years of service, some with medals for bravery, all destroyed by presidential racism with the stroke of a pen. The message was crystal clear. It didn't matter how well you served, how bravely you fought, or how loyal you were. In racist America, you were still a black man first, and that made you guilty until proven innocent. If the system would betray even its most loyal servants, black communities had to find new ways to fight back. Enter Charles Young, a man so competent that racist America had to conspire to stop him. Young was only the third black graduate of West Point, and from day one, he was marked as dangerous, not because he was violent, but because he was brilliant. Young served with distinction everywhere they sent him. He was a natural leader, spoke multiple languages, and had a mind for strategy that impressed even his racist colleagues. He advocated for his black troops, fought for better conditions, and refused to bow down to white supremacist expectations. When black soldiers had a problem, they had an advocate. When the military tried to hide their achievements, Young made sure they got recognition. He represented something terrifying to white supremacy. A black man who couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be bought, and couldn't be ignored. But when World War I started, Young was about to cross a line that white America would never allow. Charles Young was in line to become the highest-ranking black officer in American history, potentially commanding white troops. And white America lost its absolute mind. They forced him into retirement under fake medical claims, said he had high blood pressure and couldn't serve. You know what Young did? He rode his horse 500 miles from Ohio to Washington, D.C. to prove he was physically fit. 500 miles on horseback at age 55, just to call out their obvious lie. This wasn't about his health. This was about making sure no black man ever got too much power in the American military. Young had become too competent, too respected, too dangerous to white supremacy. They would rather weaken their own military than let a black man command white soldiers. Young's dramatic protest became something bigger than one man's career. Young's 500-mile horseback ride became a symbol of resistance that echoed across black America. The black press covered it extensively. The NAACP rallied support. Black communities across the country saw what was happening. If they could do this to Charles Young, a West Point graduate with an impeccable record, they could do it to anyone. Buffalo soldiers weren't just individual soldiers anymore. They had become symbols of black pride and possibility. When they rode into a town, black folks saw what they could become: disciplined, respected, armed, and unafraid. And white racists saw their worst nightmare: black men with power who couldn't be lynched or intimidated. There are records of black communities writing to the War Department, begging for Buffalo soldiers to be stationed nearby, because they knew these men would protect them when no one else would. But the military had other plans for these soldiers, plans that would test their moral compass. The same government that betrayed Buffalo soldiers at home sent them to enforce American imperialism abroad. In the Philippines, they fought to suppress Filipino independence fighters. Against native tribes, they enforced the government's westward expansion that displaced indigenous peoples from their ancestral lands. Buffalo soldiers found themselves in the impossible position of oppressing other oppressed peoples. It's a harsh reality of how systems of power work. They'll use one marginalized group to control another. These men, who knew oppression intimately, were being used as tools of someone else's oppression. But here's what's remarkable. Some Buffalo soldiers recognized this contradiction. In the Philippines, more black soldiers deserted to join Filipino rebels than from any other American units. They understood oppression when they saw it, because all lived it every day. Even when used as tools of empire, some chose resistance over complicity. Despite the betrayals, the contradictions, and the systematic racism. Buffalo Soldiers carved out space for Black excellence inside a system designed to destroy them. Every promotion, every medal, every act of courage was a crack in the wall of white supremacy. They proved that excellence could be a form of resistance. They showed that dignity couldn't be taken away, only given up. They demonstrated that armed, disciplined Black men were not a threat to democracy, not were democracy's greatest defenders. These men didn't just wear the uniform. They redefined what it meant to be an American soldier. They served the country that hated them and fought enemies foreign and domestic, including the racism within their own ranks. Their legacy became proof that Black Americans could serve with distinction while fighting the very system that oppressed them. The Buffalo Soldiers fought every enemy America sent them against, and the enemy America refused to admit existed: racism itself. They scared racist America because they showed what Black people could accomplish when given half a chance. Armed, disciplined, unbreakable, and proud. Their service laid the groundwork for military integration, civil rights progress, and every Black person who would wear the uniform after them. They proved that Black excellence couldn't be denied, no matter how hard white supremacy tried to suppress it. So the next time someone tries to tell you that Black people didn't contribute to American history, remind them about the Buffalo Soldiers, men who turned oppression into opportunity, uniforms into weapons of resistance, and fear into respect. They were badass Black soldiers who terrified white America by refusing to be anything less than excellent. And in doing so, they changed what it meant to be both Black and American forever.
All right. Shout out to Black Stories Untold. Man, this brother did a fantastic job at going through all three of these videos. All praises to the Most High for the brother doing the magnificent work, especially if it's him by himself. So magnificent. What can I say about this video? One, it was very well done, and the information concerning the Buffalo Soldiers is phenomenal to hear and look at. Even during this time of us remaining humble for Yom Kippur, this is a reminder that when our people were at their lowest, that we were able to raise up when the opportunity it presented itself. So when the opportunity came, we were able to raise up. And that one elder brother riding the horse for 500 miles to prove that he was not ill, that he was not in need of retirement, that they just didn't want to give him the position that he had earned. You know, that says so much about the mind state of these warriors, these men who would go into battle, as well as them deserting America and going to fight with the Philippines because they were trying to use our people to oppress another people. How are you going to use a people that's oppressed in your land to oppress another people in their land? That is ridiculous. And that is exactly what they try to do. These are their exploits. But the Buffalo Soldiers wasn't having it. You know, I'm happy to say I'm a third generation Army man. And my grandfather was a Buffalo soldier. And he rode a horse. And my father also was a military man, private first class, during the Vietnam era. And I myself, a soldier in the Army during the Iraqi war era. Spent time in Iraq, operating and doing a job that they wanted us to do. So I resonate with this on a very deep level. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful that these brothers did what they had to do and that they set a standard for excellence for our people when the opportunity was presented. And it was magnificent. that and what they did and their accomplishments and their willingness to protect. One last thing on this note that I will say: if you have not seen this movie, the 24th, this movie tells about the Black Regiment in Houston, Texas, who went through the Houston riots, 1917. And it was hard to deal with, hard to watch, but it was well worth it. You know, our history is hard, our history is difficult, but if we don't deal with our history, then we're fooling only ourselves. Because if I don't deal with my history, who am I fooling? Because it's still there. I can't fool anybody but me, because the history is there whether I deal with it or I don't. It's there. So it's important for us. These pictures, these historical context, all of this information, this is all important for us. And we should relish in the opportunity to deal with these things. And I'm not saying we should love the fact that these things happen to us, but we certainly can't change the past and what happened. But what we can do is learn from it. We can learn what happened, and then we can learn from that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end us off here in this 3-part. As always, praises to the Most High, but I do this for a specific purpose. And Romans chapter 10 and verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Ha'abba for Israel is that they might be saved. We want to see our people saved. We want to see our people set free. We want to see our people restored to the prominence that the Most High have promised us. How are we going to do it? Number one, keep the faith and the belief in the Messiah, Hamashiach, in his order to return Israel to prominence, to gather us and return us to prominence. How are we going to do it? Keeping the faith in the Mashiach. Number two, Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us, in the conclusion of the whole matter, fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is so very important to understand that in the conclusion of the whole matter, we are to fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, when it is all said and done, all the dust is settled and all the smoke is cleared, we will be judged on whether we have feared the Most High and kept his commandments. Why? Because this is the whole duty of man. I am your Akazaki Yahu, giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem HaMashiach, Wa Malak, Yahweh Shai, and to the 12 tribes of Israel, who are scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. I say Shalom, Wa Baruch, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High Power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. Until that day come, Shalom, family. Praises to the Abba. Praise you, Abba Yah, Kwam Yasha'Allah, and Barak Hashem Yahweh.